Hey guys, welcome into the show. My name is Tyler Kluver. I'm a former Division One athlete. I now run a fitness coaching business as well as a sports media brand that creates podcasts, sells merchandise, and creates other exclusive content. This show is a place for me to document my thoughts on fitness, health, nutrition, maybe some business or mindset stuff, as well as update anyone listening on my own competitive fitness endeavors and life events. I want everybody that comes and listens to this show to take something away that can make their life better, whether it's a diet or fitness tip or a way of thinking about things that motivates you to be better in your own life. Hopefully we can get that done, but regardless, I'm glad you're here. Let's have a day. Let's go. And we're back for the Snap Podcast. It's been 2 weeks. We'll get into that in a second. We're going to talk about that in just 1 minute. First, I want to point people in the direction of, on the bottom of the screen there, if you're watching the YouTube, TKG Training. Tyler Kluver Garage Training is what that stands for. It is a program that I write. There's a workout that comes out every single day of the week. Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week, 24/7, 365. That's what I should put on the program advertising. But seriously, it's a program that comes out every single day. It will give you a 30-minute or less workout every single day. All you need to complete all of the workouts is your body and a dumbbell. Very, very occasionally, we'll throw in something where you could use a bench or a step or a jump rope, but there's modifications as well. First yawn of the podcast. And if you're someone who needs at-home workouts, you don't have a lot of equipment, you want good workouts that if you put in the effort will get you great results, but you don't want to spend a bunch of money on other programs or workout systems or coaches, memberships, then this is for you. Find it at tylerkluver.com, or I'll point you in the right direction if you hit me up in the DMs at Tyler Kluver on all the social medias. That being said, where were we last week? Why was I gone? I wasn't even on this planet. Unfortunately, I ran into the first true migraine that I've ever experienced, that I've ever had. And it was bad. I'm not going to hash out for 10 or 15 minutes the entire saga or sit here and complain because second yawn of the podcast, cool. Love that. 3 minutes in. Because it's just going to sound like me complaining, bitching, and moaning for, however long I would do that. But if you've ever had a migraine, I now have a newfound respect for what it's like to go through that. And to put it simply, it was insufferable. Like it was completely, it shut me down. I couldn't do anything. There was no task that I could do. I could hardly get up to go downstairs to the kitchen. It just completely wiped me out. And this is relevant because today's episode comes to you 3 days before our next big event, our next big personal event or competition or whatever you'd like to call it. And that is the race, the 13.1 miles half marathon, Dam to DSM half marathon that myself and my brother are running this Saturday, June 1st of 2024. We'll talk a little bit about that today. It would be nice if when you set out onto a prep, we had a 14-week prep for this race specifically, and even a little bit longer than that because a couple weeks before we actually started the written training runs, we I was doing some lots of walking just to get time on my feet, and throwing in a couple runs in there as well. So we've been doing this for 3+ months. And when you do a prep, ideally everything goes smooth, especially when you set a goal. And we'll go over this goal that we have, and how it's looking, how mentally we're approaching this, what we think about Saturday's race as far as what time we're going to be pulling in here. But especially when you set a goal that is, um, I think it's best described as razor thin. The margins were razor thin on this specific goal that we set, which was to run under an hour and 40 minutes. When I asked my brother, probably 5 months ago, sometime around the turn of 2024, like, what are you training for now? Like, do you have anything? Like, what have you been doing in the gym? Which is kind of the conversation that started this journey. It was, it was essentially this goal that was going to set his priority as far as what he was doing for his workouts. And there was no, at least for us, there is no real point in signing up to do this race. He's done one half marathon, the Kansas City Half Marathon in 2022, I believe. I've done two of them and a full. We've run those distances. This isn't a for a lot of people out there, for many in the race on Saturday, completing this race, going all the way from the dam in Saylorville to downtown Des Moines and finishing the race, going 13 miles on your feet, um, is a huge accomplishment. For us personally, not so much, which is really highlighted sort of in those last couple peak weeks of your training plan. Um, when you run 10, 11, 12 miles for your long run that week, and you're like, well, if I just go one more, then I just ran a half marathon. It's like, that was really kind of an eye opener to, oh, we're not, you know, if we don't, it was an eye opener to, hey, if we don't hit our goal, if we don't get close or find some way to find success in this run based off of a time frame, just finishing it is not going to be very satisfying, especially looking back, knowing that we just put in 3 months of a fair amount of work on this. I mean, you're looking at, probably when you average it out front to back, obviously the weeks increased in mileage, and then the last couple weeks have been taper weeks. Um, I mean, you're probably looking at 2.5 to 3 hours of running per week, average, I would say. I think the average mileage, I know the average mileage was, oh god, it was 14. It's probably 20, about 20 miles average per week over the course of the entire prep, maybe a little more. So take that 20 miles of prep and times it by your average mile time of about 9 minutes. We're doing mental math on the podcast here. It's about 3 hours. It's about 3 hours of running per week, which isn't crazy, right? But that's a decent time commitment. We've spent 50 hours running over the last 3 months to train for this. All of this going back to just to say, we set a goal. It was an hour and 40 minutes or less. Zach, my brother, who I'm running this with, ran his KC marathon, which we're still a little bit confused on how he ran this fast on such shitty training. I gave him the most basic, like, just blanket program about as minimum dose as you need to run a half marathon, and he somehow went out and ran 1:43:45. So the goal was, okay, well, if he ran that and we're going to commit and do a program that is much more dialed in, much more thought out, 6 weeks longer, or maybe he did 10 weeks, so maybe four-ish weeks longer. Like, we should be able to cut 3 minutes off of that 3:45 and go for that 1 hour 40-minute mark. The 1 hour 40-minute mark, obviously this all is relevant to a pace. That pace is 7 minutes and 38 seconds per mile. Not hard to run a 7:38 once. A lot harder to run a 7:38 13 times in a row. Obviously, that's the challenge you're facing. My PR is the first marathon I did, or half marathon, and I ran something like a 1:53. I don't remember the seconds on there, but 1:53, 1:54. So for me, this was going to be cutting off about 13 minutes. Essentially, quite literally dropping a minute per mile off of my pace. And neither Zach or I have the base or have been doing running enough as generally our fitness program, right? Like, I do CrossFit. I'm very fit. I'm okay at running. I'm not fit enough, like, in specifically the modality of running, like a lot of people might be if that's what they do on a daily or weekly basis for their fitness, right? Someone who doesn't really lift weights, but they're into running, they're a runner, and they're running somewhere between 20 or 30 miles a week, just standard. Just any week of the year that they're between about 20 or 30 miles. It was probably closer to 5 miles a week of volume for me as a CrossFitter who trains somewhat competitively. So getting to a 7:38 minute per mile pace, there's a lot of other caveats here. Like, I'm 5'10" and I'm built like a turd, a Lego. Like, I'm not built to run anyway. Throw on top of that I'm a fast twitch athlete, a very fast twitch athlete, confirmed times again and again over by, you name the lift or the speed and agility drill that I did in football when I was still playing. I excel in explosive, quick, short tests or movements. 5-10, 5 drill, change of direction, Olympic lifting. You could even tell just from the way I bench and I squat that I'm a fast twitch athlete, just the way that I move. So I'm built poorly to run at 5'10", 200 pounds. And the muscle fibers that I was given were also not the ones that are good at 13 miles of running. And I only ran about 3 to 5 miles a week before we started this program. All factors considered, 7:38 miles for 13 in a row. It's a lofty goal. But we built the program out. We ran the race as far as, doing the preparation, going through all the weeks. We needed everything to go right. And we were pretty good. I would say things were going pretty good through about 8 weeks. And then once a week, there would be a run that we didn't hit our paces. We did not hit the training paces that we needed to hit to feel really confident about being in shape for the 7:38 per minute mile. And it wasn't every run. There were some runs that felt great where we did hit pace, but not every run. And then for me personally, we ran into last week where I got a migraine that was coming out of a sickness, which didn't allow me to run. And again, this was a taper week. This was the week before I guess 2 weeks out from the race this started. So I wasn't missing any massive runs. We had already gotten past our big run, 12 miles. But we missed our last interval day. We missed our easy run, or we were able to do 3 miles easy last Tuesday. Wednesday, we got the migraine. We missed our last threshold run. Thursday, I wasn't able to do anything. Friday, I was finally feeling okay and got 3 crappy miles out. So I got 6 miles in last week, and then I was able to run 7 as my long run 1 week out from the race last Saturday. So I got 13 miles in last week. That hit, not only did that hit the confidence hard, but it also wasn't it wasn't what was programmed, right? I was supposed to hit closer to 20 miles last week. And those miles that were missing were the ones with intensity that mattered. And it didn't feel like it just stopped me in my tracks. It felt like it set me back in my tracks. Like now my ability to go out and push hard physically was compromised because of this headache, this migraine that I got. And it was just yesterday, Tuesday, 5 days before the race, 4 days before the race, that I felt maybe close to being back physically. Um, I feel better physically now, and like I can mentally bear a lot of the load that's going to be required to run this race. Training wise, things didn't go perfect. Like we didn't thread the needle on that razor thin margin. So, are we going to be able to run the pace? I don't know. I have no idea. Our plan, our goal is to come out feeling good. We're going to get a great warm up in. We're going to be hydrated. All of the intangibles outside of just running the race and what the pace on your watch says, all of that will be taken care of. We'll be properly nutritioned, the 2 days, day before, day of the race. We'll be properly hydrated. We've got electrolytes ready. We've got intra race nutrition ready, which isn't huge on a half marathon, but it will play a small factor. I've got our warm up and our routine and our morning of what we need to do to warm up our bodies and get ready. I've got all that ready to go. So everything will be in line for us to do the thing when the gun goes off. This race starts high, elevation wise, relative to the total elevation of the course. And so the first a mile or so is pretty flat up on the dam and out. And then mile 2 is downhill. And so the first 2-3-ish miles, we plan on being on pace, running off of that adrenaline from the start of the race, running downhill, like it's a pretty significant downhill at one point, should give us the ability to bank a few seconds. Planning on running somewhere around, we'll feel it out, but whatever feels comfortably good and not pushing. We don't want to be pushing in those first 3 miles. We want to accept sort of an 85, 90%, and hopefully that will get us around the 720 to 730 mark. Finish that first 5K, or, let's call it 3.1, and then be looking at 10 miles where we basically break those down into the next four, which are going to be the most crucial. Because how we feel in miles 4, 5, 6, and 7 are probably going to determine how willing we are, how confident we are to hang on for 8, 9, and 10. And then the last three shouldn't be as big of an issue. You're coming down into the city. There's a little bit of downhill in that last three. You get the adrenaline reboost of being downtown, seeing people getting closer, almost being done. But yeah, those middle two sections of the next four is what I'll call it after the start, and then the kind of that 3 push at the middle backside. We'll have to just feel it out. I'm not a person that likes to have a plan B. I like to just worry about plan A and then see where the chips fall. But in this specific race, knowing the conditions and the prep and how everything went, plan A is to feel out and see where we're at on the sub 140. Plan B, which I think is most likely, I don't want to let that mental leak sort of get into me, but we have to be smart about it. Plan B is we need to beat his PR time. So we have to run 143.44 or better. That is a pace that requires, I think, about a 7:56, if I'm not mistaken. I think a 140, an hour 45 is an 8-minute mile. So you take 13 miles times 4 seconds a mile, gets you close to that 143.44 time, maybe 5 seconds a mile. So you're running about 7:55 pace. That's our plan B. And if we bank some time early, and when it comes time to make the decision on how fast we're going to run, if we have to back off to 7:55, we could actually probably back off to around 8 minutes. And if we can hold 8 minutes, we should be able to get that done. Plan C, which I haven't even really thought about, but there's in no way, shape, or form do I see us running slower than 8 minutes per mile, which will be a huge PR for me, going sub 145 back when I was running my first couple half marathons. I thought that was going to be a lot of work, and it was a lot of work to get to where we're at right now. But yeah, it's that's where we're at. We're on Wednesday. We have a training run today where I'm going to do about 1 mile where I really, really push the tempo. I think it's 3 to 4 miles total. And then we've got a rest day tomorrow, a little shakeout run on Friday, and Saturday morning we'll do the thing. So that's what we got. We're pre-race. We put in most of the work, as much work as we could do, and we're going to see where that leaves us. I do want to mention, so we'll break down the race next week. I will do a podcast next week. And well, yeah, actually, we shouldn't have any more hiccups, or at least foreseen hiccups. I am going on vacation. That vacation is going to run from Thursday to Tuesday, though. So I should be able to get a pod in before that next week and a pod in after that the week following. So we'll break down this race next week. And what was I going to mention that we got coming up? We have a DEXA scan. If you remember, we did a 2-part series that was supposed to be a 3-part series that would have happened sooner than this, but we ended up getting hurt. We didn't know what was going on. Then we were doing CrossFit open season. Then we started losing weight and muscle during this whole running thing. So we're going to get a third DEXA scan in the last year, and we're going to see where our body fat and total weight sits after this run prep. Very intrigued. I know I'm light. I've lost weight. I think the first time we did this, I was about 187 pounds at 16.3% body fat. We did a bulk and went up to 193.5 pounds and actually went down in body fat percentage because we only put on muscle. So we went to about 15.6%. I would say we're probably still around that 15.6%, but we're back down closer to the 187 pound range. So we'll see. We'll be able to recap that because I'll be doing that next Wednesday morning. That'll be literally hours fresh for the next podcast. And we'll combine that with the race recap, our half marathon 2024, shooting for sub 140. We're going to do our best. Race day juice. Hopefully it can get us there. Check out TKG Training, tylerkluver.com. All the things. Your excuses aren't valid. Go be a fucking savage. Let's have a day. Let's go.